Story 1. Professor demands we stick to schedule. We stick to schedule. This was last year. In hindsight, I feel a little bad for the professor. He wasn't the worst I'd ever had, and he was up against a university which was in turmoil behind the scenes and spearheading an untested new course. That being said, I am paying quite exorbitantly for this education, and he was a right snot about this, so, It was a history course, and one of the assignments was a group project wherein we presented in front of the class. There was a 3-hour seminar taking place in a lecture hall, the last hour of which was reserved for 2 groups to go up and present at a half-hour apiece. This would involve a Q and a session afterwards, just to keep us on our toes, I suppose. Professor really emphasized that we pick the week and topic we're going to present in, and that's that. It's first come first serve, and if you miss your spot you get a 0. Thought nothing of it at the time, seemed fair. Didn't like his attitude, but whatever, right? Well, I won the lottery with the group I was assigned. They were grand lads and a dream to work with. We decided on an advantageous week to present given our schedules, and we spent the run-up fine-tuning this presentation and really getting it to work. We used a stopwatch and everything. We even brought in outsiders to ask questions we might not predict. All was well. Except we were presenting in week 5, and a disturbing pattern had emerged during the seminars in weeks 2, 3 and 4. For all his talk about keeping things constrained and everyone working within a schedule, whoever went second was screwed. The first group always ran long and the second group had to make do with, at most, 20 minutes. You could see the stress on their faces. So come week 5 the rest of my group, a little bit more nervous than I am, worries aloud about whether all of our careful planning will be for pot. I decide to throw a Hail Mary thinking that the worst I could get is a no, right? So I go up right before class starts and ask the professor what are the odds we might go on first out of the 2, after all, we're sure we have this down to 30 minutes. The dude proceeds to rake me across the coals in front of everyone. It was a normal speaking voice, but the podium was right by the door, and people were filing in. Tells me not to ask such a stupid question and to go back to my seat. I go back, tail between my legs, pissed off, and sit with steam shooting out of my ears for the next 2 hours. Sure enough, the other group goes first. And sure enough, they run long. We shoot concerned looks to the professor who is too busy watching the other group to notice. Come 50 minutes in and the first group is just about wrapping up. The guys in my group are silently freaking out about this. Nightmare, right? That's when the professor stands up, polite applause all around, and then says, well, I guess we're finishing early today, huh? Like a scene out of a courtroom drama, the 4 of us stand up like a shot and ask what the hell is going on. He can't quite hear us from back, and we're all talking at once, so he asks, what's going on? I charge down those steps like King Kong. In the same tone of voice, in front of the same door that people were now filing out of, I tell this guy that we're booked for the assignment today and we have something prepared. What? Turns out he totally plumb forgot that we were presenting today, and that's why he was so mad at my suggestion earlier. So I tell him we're presenting now, to an empty room, or he's giving us 100. The poor guy sure did try. Insisted we hadn't signed up this week, we had insisted that he could schedule us in next week, even assuming 2 of 4 of our group weren't away on placement for their teaching degree. We booked for this week as ordered, insisted that he had somewhere to be, not my problem, mate. Dude just had to wear it. After making a phone call to presumably his next appointment, he had to stand there, white as a sheet, and wear it. I'll never forget the look on his face. So we presented to a lecture hall empty of all but the professor and 2 students who, I guess, wanted to see more of the show. We got a great grade, to boot. Story 2. Boss was reluctant to do anything about deadweight coworker because he wasn't making obvious mistakes. We decided to make it obvious. We had this coworker on our team. The best way to describe him is to use a Homer Simpson line, everyone says they have to work a lot harder when I'm around. Projects given to him usually were not completed correctly, not entirely completed, or not even worked on at all. He violated security protocols, gave out equipment to other departments, and would occasionally disappear for hours. He would always have someone else to blame for his problems, contractors, staff in other departments, but the last straw for the rest of us was when he tried to throw his own team under the bus. We all knew he was skating by because we'd fix his mistakes to keep everything else running. And admittedly, it's hard to get fired from a state job. But after blaming us and having to hear about it, that was the last straw. So the rest of us on the team stopped helping him, and we stopped fixing his mistakes. He wasn't making obvious mistakes before. Now they were obvious. The mistakes were piling up, and fast. We would collaborate with him only down to the bare minimum. He had no reason to blame us if our contributions to a project were completed and his weren't. And then came the kiss of death. He took a week off. With him not around, everything that piled up started getting completed by the rest of us. New tasks were completed on top of that, and on time. Even my boss could not ignore the simple fact that the place ran smoother without him around. After he returned, everything started piling back up again. So we came into work a couple weeks ago and it was announced that he had left the organization. Not one person was surprised. The thing that amazes me about this whole thing is that nobody coordinated it. None of us hatched a plan. We all just individually decided that enough was enough. You wanted obvious. You got it. It is impressive how much it takes to get fired for some people. My last 2 jobs both featured a teammate who essentially collected a paycheck and did nothing in return. At least my manager here had the balls to do what was needed. It's also amazing that in the end, there's less work to do with him gone because tasks don't need to be done twice anymore. Story 3. I often replace my alcoholic drinks with water without telling the people I'm drinking with. I am 25F. I go out pretty often, whether it be with my friends, husband, or family. In college, I drank heavily every weekend. My tolerance became pretty high, and then I started dating a guy that would drink way too much every night, so I started being the sober one so I could drive us home each night. Fast forward 3 to 4 years, I'm married to a different guy that drinks responsibly, and I still have replaced maybe 90% of my drinks with water, or just straight up didn't add alcohol to my drinks but said I did to not get questions and to feel more included. The people I drink with don't know this. Last night my husband asked me to pour 2 shots of vodka, but I poured 1 and put water in my cup. We cheersed and drank them. Then he wanted a mixed drink, so I made vodka sodas, except mine was just soda. Another time I was on our friend's boat, and they were all plastered. They were handing me White Claw after White Claw and I would sip on it here and there, but when no one was looking I would pour mine out into the water every so often so it looked like I was drinking them. I don't really know why I do this to the extent I do. I feel safe with the people I'm around. I just like being clear-minded. Drinking and feeling fuzzy is unsettling to me. When I go out, especially if it's loud inside the bar, I'll quietly order with the bartender a Diet Coke or Sprite, then tell people it's a Jack and Coke or vodka Sprite. I also don't want to be the girl that never lets loose and has a good time. I had my fun in college and I like to know I can get everyone home safe by the end of the night. Feels good to finally say something. Thanks for reading. Edit for more details. I don't say I am having alcohol unless people ask. I don't brag around saying I am drinking when I'm not. If people assume I am, then great. If they ask, I just say it's something alcoholic. I also only do this for a couple drinks, then actually just say I'm sobering up when I order a 3rd, 4th so people know I'm not getting hammered. The people I am around now don't drink a ton, but they do drink enough to need a ride every once in a while. The cost of a White Claw when you buy them in bulk is like $5. No, I don't feel bad for fake drinking 3 to 4 White Claws and dumping them out. Whether I drink them or not, they still spent the money on them, or we did. Usually cost of food, drinks is split when we have a river boat party. Having 20-something people asking why you're not drinking is exhausting and annoying. This was one instance I just used as an example. Last thing, I will genuinely have a glass of wine or a mixed drink here and there. I'm not completely sober all the time. I just don't drink a lot, that's all. Story 4. I, F19, refuse to cut my boyfriend's M19 toenails. How do I solve this dispute? To start off, yes, I understand this is extremely trivial. For context, we both are in college, and both still live with our parents. My boyfriend never cuts his own toenails and always gets his mother to do it. He refuses to do it himself because he doesn't know how to and refuses to learn. I don't remember how the conversation went the last time we discussed it since it was a while ago, but this was brought up last night, where he said in the future I will have to do it instead of his mother. I refused, and said he is a grown man and should know how to cut his own toenails. He said I was being a bitch about it, which he apologized afterwards because name calling was something I told him I didn't like. Still, I think the name calling was unnecessary. He said this was the one thing he cared about and doing it showed that I cared about him, and when I tried to ask him why he cared about it so much, he interrupted me and said that he wouldn't argue with me and just that he cares. He also said if he asked a male friend to do it they would do it for him. Honestly, I could do it, but I feel like this is something he should know how to do himself. I understand this is far into the future, but if I hurt my hand or I'm pregnant and cannot bend down to even touch my feet, what will he do? Will he go back to his mother at 30 just to have his toenails cut? I'm not sure if I am just being childish, but any advice would really help. Edit 1. This is the only thing that he has someone else do for him, he's quite independent otherwise. I think without much context he sounds like a terrible boyfriend, but he is a great guy overall and I really do love him and don't want to break up over something so silly. I just want to find a way to make him understand why this is something important he should know how to do. Edit 2. Just so everyone knows, we have been dating for 5 years. I forgot to include that in the context. And no, this is not a joke post or rage bait. As ridiculous as this sounds, it was a real conversation that happened. Story 5. AITAH My mom is upset because I lied to her and asked her to keep it a secret and then gaslit her about it. My mom 46 loves to gossip. I wish she didn't but she does. I try my best not to participate but sometimes she tells me stuff I would rather not know. I was having a rough time after a breakup with my boyfriend and I made the mistake of talking to her about it. Basically my boyfriend decided that he preferred a close friend of mine to me. She told him to get fucked and he tried coming back saying he made a mistake and all that. Seriously fuck that guy. Next thing I know my aunt is texting me to ask me about this friend who stole my man. That wasn't what happened. I asked my mom WTF and she said she was just talking the situation over with her sister. I very clearly told her not to discuss my personal life that I told her about with anyone else. If I want them to know I will tell them. She said I was taking it too seriously but agreed. She did it again. And again. I am now done with her shit. I'm graduating from college in June. I already have a great job lined up with a company that I have interned with. I have a plan for my future. I was talking to my mom recently and she was prying into my life. I told her why I wasn't interested in talking to her about anything personal. She started crying about how she is a terrible mother and can't do anything right. I am used to her manipulation now so I just waited it out. After she calmed down I told her that I actually had some big stuff going down in my life but that I would hate her forever if she told anyone. She promised that she wouldn't tell a soul. I told her I was pregnant and might need to drop out but that I was happy about it. After she lost her shit she said she would support me no matter what and that she would keep my secret until I decided what I was going to do. I know it's a cliche but my phone did blow up. Relatives and friends all calling to check in on me and see how I was doing and if I needed anything. I told everyone I was fine and was looking forward to graduation and my career. My aunt broke first and asked what I was going to do about the baby and if I had really thought through my life if I had a kid. I told her I wasn't pregnant and had never been pregnant. I asked her who was spreading such awful rumors about me. She wouldn't say. But it got around too. Eventually my mom called me to ask. I said I had no idea what she was talking about and that maybe she dreamed it or something. She is pissed about it and thinks I am gaslighting her. Which I suppose I am. But I feel bad now that everyone thinks she is lying and she can't prove otherwise. Ada. Story 6. Elderly woman gets mad at me for sitting. So some important information. I 33F underwent breast reduction surgery for health purposes 2 weeks ago and have been recovering. What this means is that my chest area is very sore and I am very sensitive to things I normally wouldn't be an issue, i.e. driving over a pothole in the road or standing for too long. My partner and I went to one of our favorite diners for breakfast because it was his birthday. I'm not able to do much now while recovering so I offered to at least pay since he'd have to drive us both. Two older couples, I would estimate they were in their early 70s, walked into the very small waiting area. It was chilly outside, so I don't blame them one the bit. However, there was nowhere to sit when they came in. I was sitting in a single chair by the door, and normally, I would absolutely offer my seat to one of them out of consideration. However, I remained sitting because due to my recent reduction surgery, standing for too long does, in fact, make my chest sore, and I wasn't sure how much longer I'd be waiting. Now, the way the waiting area is situated, you wait in line rather than put your name down on a wait list. The closer to the door you are sitting or standing, the sooner you get sat. It was a bit confusing when we first came in, but it got explained to us and we took our rightful place at the back of the line. So when a group who was already at the door got up to be seated by the hostess, it opened some space on the bench nearest to the door. Those of us who had already been waiting all started shuffling down the bench in the seating area, moving us closer to the door. However, the elderly group immediately sat down, not knowing they were technically cutting in line. Myself and the other couples tried to politely explain how the queue worked, but one of the elderly women interrupted us by loudly announcing, "Well, you should just let my friend sit because of her age, you know," then gave me a nasty side eye, rolled her eyes and shook her head at her friend as if we should all be ashamed of ourselves. One of the families who was waiting with us tried explaining, again, how the queue was organized, but she wouldn't hear it. I finally said, "I'm sorry, I would have given you my seat, but I'm still recovering from surgery and can't stand for long periods of time. I'm sorry." It got very quiet until, finally, the same lady said, "Well, do you want to sit here?" And I just stopped her and replied, "No, please, I'm fine where I am." We all waited in silence until it was our turn to be seated. Moral of the story: don't assume someone in a seat isn't sitting there because they don't look like need it. I got dressed in a cute outfit and did my makeup because even though I'm recovering from surgery, I want to still look and feel good. I was raised to be considerate and offer my seat to those who are elderly, pregnant, or injured. However, if I'm injured, I have the right to remain in my seat. Please don't assume the worst about others. I've heard so many stories that are much worse than mine about people who are disabled getting flack for not needing things such as park spots, electric scooters, or other accommodations as much as other people because they don't look disabled, which is totally unfair. I'm only recovering from a surgery temporarily. I don't have to live with this every day, but others do. Let's learn to put aside our entitlement and give others the benefit of the doubt. And if we truly need help or consideration, ask. That's how you normalize better treatment of others. Aida for wanting my son to give me back the family business he can't take over. I 74M have a son who is 47M who got arrested for a DUI over 15 years ago and he is unable to find a regular job. He has ADHD, is married, and had 2 daughters. I hired him in my small business, which is an office setting, many years ago to give him a job for his family. I have trained him, given him ample opportunity to be successful, and allowed him to hire multiple members of his wife's family and friends. I am still keeping the business afloat for him financially, and his wife works a well-paying full-time job. They bought almost $1 million house this year and spend money rapidly, like putting their kids in multiple travel sports which cost several thousand a year. I am not one to tell them how to spend their money, but I'm providing context for the story. My son and I had an agreement that I would receive a percentage on any new clients we find, which I have found myself. I've had my business for over 50 years. I enjoy working, but being 74, I get tired and stressed easily, but it keeps my mind occupied. My wife and I recently purchased a small home and my son came over to help me move a fridge. He started yelling and swearing at me this past week and told me I'm spending too much from the business with my wife and our new home. I hired some contractors to paint and put in new floors. He told me he was only giving me $9,000 of a $36,000 payment I am owed. My wife and I are on a fixed income. I told him to get out and he had a big outburst, swearing, carrying on, and stressing me out. He doesn't even do his job and I am always doing the brunt of the work. I have decided to take my business back and all my clients and work on my own. He can figure the rest out himself. I'm tired of his lack of commitment. His wife and him have also alienated my other children and family due to their awful drama and bullying tactics. They didn't attend a family event over the weekend we had, and honestly, it was the most fun I've had in a long time. My younger son and daughter both refuse to be around this son and wife due to how awful they have treated them. My daughter hasn't attended a holiday in 2 years because of this son and his wife, and she finally came this past weekend and we had a great time. Aida to cut my son out of my business. Story 8. Aida for asking my girlfriend to move out because she started a career as an influencer and stopped respecting my privacy. I've been living with my girlfriend for 2 years. At first, everything was great, we got along well, spent time together, and had a good balance between our personal lives and being a couple. But a few months ago, she started building a career as an influencer. At the beginning, it was just a fun hobby for her, some pictures, a couple of videos, nothing over the top. I always supported her and was proud that she found something she enjoyed. However, things quickly spiraled out of control. Our apartment has turned into her personal studio. Every corner has to be perfectly curated for photos, every room is a potential backdrop for her vlogs. When I come home tired from work, all I want is to relax, but immediately there's a camera in my face because she's filming content. Even our private conversations are often recorded without my prior consent, and then I find them posted in her videos. It got especially awkward when she posted part of a conversation where I shared something deeply personal, which I didn't expect to be made public. I tried talking to her about it, but she always brushes it off, saying I'm overreacting and that it's just part of her job, and I should be more understanding. Over time, this has started to wear me down. I feel like I no longer have any space in our home where I can just be myself without worrying about being filmed or photographed. A few days ago, after yet another incident where I came home and was caught on camera, I decided to have a serious conversation with her. I told her that I understand her influencer career is now an important part of her life, but for me, it's becoming too much. I suggested that maybe she should consider moving out, not because I want to break up with her, but because I need a private space where I don't feel constantly watched. She flipped out. She said I was selfish, that I wasn't supporting her career, and that I was trying to control her. She accused me of sabotaging her success instead of being proud of what she's achieved. Now, we're barely speaking, and I feel like my boundaries and needs aren't being respected at all. On one hand, I get that her job excites her, but on the other hand, am I really the asshole for just wanting some privacy and space in my own home? Aida. Story 9. F 25 feet, 27 m. Am I being dishonest for staying with my boyfriend while knowing I'm a lesbian? Am I being dishonest for staying with my boyfriend while knowing I'm a lesbian? We've been together for over a year, and he's genuinely one of the kindest, most loving person I've ever met. We met at church, and our relationship grew naturally. I do care about him a lot, and I appreciate all the love and support he gives me. I'm a Christian, and my faith is important to me, but that's where my struggle really begins. He's told me that I'm the love of his life, that he's never been so happy, and that he's found someone who truly completes him. He says I'm unlike anyone else, and that he doesn't think he'll ever find someone like me again. Hearing that makes this even harder because I know he's genuine, and I don't want to break his heart. But the truth is, I'm not physically attracted to him. When we kiss, it feels wrong, like I'm forcing myself to be someone I'm not. I find myself constantly fantasizing about being with a woman, and I imagine a future where I'm married to a woman and living authentically. Yet because of my religious beliefs, that future feels out of reach. I was raised to believe that marriage is only between a man and a woman, and the idea of pursuing a relationship with a woman feels like I'd be betraying my faith. That's why I've stayed with him. I thought that if I was with a good man who treats me well and shares my beliefs, I could make those feelings go away. I thought I could fix myself by focusing on our relationship. But the longer I stay, the more I realize that I'm not being fair to him or to myself. He deserves someone who can truly love him in every way, not someone who's struggling with their own identity. I'm stuck because my faith tells me that I can't be with a woman, and that makes me feel like staying with him is my only option. Am I a bad person for not breaking up with him, knowing that I'm not being honest about who I really am? I'm scared of hurting him, but I'm also scared of continuing to live a lie and letting him believe I'm his perfect match when I know I'm not. What makes this even harder is that no one knows what I'm going through, not my family, not my friends, not anyone at church. I feel like I'm living a double life, and it weighs heavily on me. I can't help but feel like I'm betraying everyone by hiding this part of myself. The guilt and fear are overwhelming, and I worry about disappointing the people I care about the most. If I ever find the courage to tell him the truth, I know I'll break his heart into a million pieces. He's told me that he's never loved anyone like he loves me, and that he even asked God for a girl exactly like me. It's hard to think about how he might feel betrayed, especially since he sees me as the one who completes him. The reality is that I feel like I'm wasting his time. He's such a kind, amazing person, any girl would be lucky to have him. I know he deserves someone who can love him fully and authentically, not someone who is struggling with her identity. It feels so unfair to him. Living this double life is suffocating, but the idea of hurting him by telling the truth is even scarier. IDK What to do. Story 10. Aida for telling my friend I don't want to take the same flights as her for my honeymoon. I'm 30, getting married very soon and planning to go to Barcelona for my honeymoon, which I thought I had told my best friend 30. A few days ago my friend told me that she is planning a trip to Barcelona the day after my wedding, which I was initially taken aback by since I thought she had planned this knowing that I was going. My friend has joked before about tagging along to my honeymoon and feel can be clingy at times, which has been noted and commented on by other friends. She made it clear that she didn't know about my plans but that she will go ahead with her plans. I would prefer if this wasn't the case, but I can't stop her from going to a part of the world. From previous encounters, I anticipate that she will want to spend some time with us while we are there and can foresee her feeling offended if we don't. I suggested to my friend that if we are all going at the same time that my husband and I book different flights, and expressed that I would not feel comfortable being on the exact same flights. After our conversation I get a phone call from my other friend asking me what I've done to make my best friend upset. She was upset by the comment that I made about feeling uncomfortable with taking the same flights and can't understand what about that makes me uncomfortable. She says that I have made her feel as though she's done something wrong, hence why I'm avoiding being in the same airplane as her. This was really surprising to me, and now my best friend doesn't want to speak to me and my second friend is seemingly on my best friend's side and says I should apologize. I feel so confused. I feel as though I am justified in wanting to take separate flights. I don't want to dismiss my friend's feelings, but I'm struggling to understand her reaction. Story 11. Aida for not sending my son to school with lunch for his half-brother. My son, 8, has a half-brother, 6, who goes to the same school as him. I am not a part of his half-brother's life and I have never interacted with this child. My ex and I are high conflict and we only communicate through an app. Though she does still text me requests sometimes. But this is not something the judge in our custody issues cares about because I ignore all texts from her unless it's an emergency, like the time our son was sent to the hospital. The father of her younger son is not in the picture and her last relationship broke down in a pretty big way. Her younger son saw this guy as his dad and so it was extra upsetting for him, something my son has told me. My ex has sent texts about struggling more with him gone and him spending a lot of her money before he left. In August she sent me 5 texts asking me to send our son into school with lunch for his half-brother. I have primary custody of our son. She has every other weekend and 2-week chunks during the summer. So I'm the primary parent of our son and I take care of school lunches, etc. I ignored her request and sent my son in with lunch just for him. She asked me again in September to send in enough for her other son and I still ignored her. Since the start of this month she has sent me several more texts calling me an asshole and saying I'm taking our issues out on her child and how I could have a heart and feed her other kid too. She told me I could do a lot more to be a father figure since our son adores me so much and is growing up way better than her son is. Aida. Story 12. My 30M family won't come to the wedding if we don't change the date. Fiancé 24F refuses. What to do? My fiancé has had a wedding day in mind for a long time now. It's an important day for her and she thinks it will make her feel closer to her father, who passed just before I met her. Understandable, I've always said we can do that, makes no difference to me tbh. We have been engaged a long time as we have no real drive to get married, seeing as we already living together and have a kid, but we decided recently that next May will be the day for various reasons. My family all live abroad, and unfortunately, though I am very excited for her, we found out not long after deciding that my sister is pregnant. And of course, her due date is 10 days after our special day. Man facepalming light skin tone, talk about crap timing. So I was sad to realize there's no way she'd be able to come at 9 months pregnant, but didn't expect the rest of my family to then say they also wouldn't make it. My parents want to be with my sister when she has the baby, and my grandmother is unable to fly over without them. I spoke to my fiancé about changing the date and she's refused, including postponing it a year for the same date. I spoke to my mum, said how it's very unlikely my sister would have the baby on the 2 or 3 days they'd be away for, and she has her husband, friends, and a very loving Mill there for support even if that were to happen. But nobody's budging. It's a small wedding anyway, we don't have many friends and both have small families, so I am at the point of just wanting to cancel it. I am stuck in the middle, having massive anxiety over it and don't know what to do. Help. Story 13. My boyfriend 24M couldn't take care of me 24F after surgery and called me a burden. What to do? My boyfriend 24M and I 24F have been together for 4 years. Last week, I had some abdominal pain, so I decided to go get it checked out by my GP. She recommended that I go to the hospital as she thought it was something quite serious. I was pretty scared at this point, so I asked my BF to come with me. This was during work hours, but he had no problems coming with me. We were in the hospital for about 6 hours before they diagnosed me with appendicitis and told me I needed to get surgery. He was with me the entire 6 hours and through all the tests they gave me before my diagnosis. He only left to get some food and get me my stuff as I had to stay overnight. He stayed until visiting hours were over. The next day, I had my surgery and my BF came to visit me during his lunch break. I had a lot of muscle pain in my upper body due to the anesthetic, and it was painful to even move around. I had to stay in the hospital for the rest of the day, but they told me I could leave that night. He came to pick me up and also picked up my painkillers for me. He helped me get into bed, then he went to play video games. I asked him to help me get ready to sleep, but he kept asking for one more game. I said I was already falling asleep and just wanted to brush my teeth and go to bed. He came down to help me, but he seemed to be in a rush to go back. He kept asking me what more I needed and went back to playing when he was done. The next morning, he made me breakfast and cleaned up our room as my parents were coming to visit me. I asked my mum to bring me a massager as my muscle pains were still unbearable. My mum gave us some food and he bought me some of it for lunch. He would help me get up and go to the bathroom when I needed to. After my parents left, I decided to take a nap, so he went to play some games. When I woke up, I needed to go to the bathroom, so I asked him to come help me. While I was in the bathroom, I got the muscle pains again and needed to lie down. I asked him to give me a massage with the massager and he asked me if I really needed it. I told him it was really painful, but he wouldn't do it. I started crying from the pain and he didn't even try to console me. One of our flatmates told us our cats had made a mess upstairs and he had to go clean it up. He got quite frustrated at this point and threw his phone on the ground. I could tell he was getting stressed, so I asked my mum to come pick me up. He came back and we started talking about why he couldn't help me. He said that he didn't want to take care of me and it was time consuming. He didn't realize how much work it would be and that I was a burden. At this point, I started sobbing and caused myself a lot of pain in my abdomen. He asked me to stop because I was hurting myself, but he didn't do anything to console me. He started to help me pack my stuff to stay at my parents' house. He said he was sorry and he was disappointed in himself. When I was leaving, he apologized again. I've been staying at my parents' house since then. It's been a couple of days and I've talked to him about what he said and how it's hurt my feelings. He's apologized again for being selfish and how he should have put more effort in. He said he would understand if I wanted to end the relationship. I don't know what to do. I don't want to break up, but at the same time I can't stop thinking about what he said. I keep thinking about what would have happened if I was in a worse state or if my mum wasn't here. I can't imagine not wanting to take care of someone that I love. But, I also can't think of any 24-year-old man being able to take good care of me. He's been a good BF for the last 4 years, but I'm scared of what might happen if I get really sick or injured. What would happen if we decide to have a baby in the future, if he would be able to take care of me? I just need some advice on what to do. Story 14. AITAH for separating my finances from my husband because he keeps lending money to his parents. We've been together for over 9 years, and until this year, the thought of separating our finances never even crossed my mind. I'm generally frugal, and he's more of a spender. In the beginning, it didn't bother me, as we had 2 incomes, and even though we weren't rich, life was comfortable. His family often borrowed money from us, and they rarely paid it back. Personally, I don't lend money to anyone, not even family, but I never stopped him from doing it. A few years into our marriage, my husband was in a serious accident, and since then, he hasn't been able to work. As a result, I became the sole breadwinner. Recently, after 4 long years, he was finally approved for disability benefits. During those years, our savings were depleted, and we were on the brink of losing everything. Our debts kept piling up, and there was nothing I could do about it. When he finally received a back payment for the entire time he'd been waiting for disability benefits, I asked him for just one thing, to pay off his car loan, for which I had already paid over $45,000 in the last few years, and maybe save some of the money. He did neither of these things. Instead, he blew through the cash, lent $8,000 to his family, and didn't contribute a cent to our debts. Meanwhile, I had managed to save a bit from my salary, but it wasn't much. My plan was to save enough to pay off some of our debts. He knew I was saving for this purpose. About a month ago, I noticed that $600 had disappeared from our savings account. I asked him what happened, and he admitted he lent it to his parents. I asked when they'd pay it back, because I needed it soon for bills, and he replied that he didn't know when they'd be able to. I was furious, not just because of the money, but because he didn't ask me, we didn't discuss it. He acted behind my back, knowing I'd be mad and would have said no. We had a huge fight, and I hoped that after that he'd stop. But he didn't. Yesterday, I checked our account and saw another $900 missing. Again, it went to his parents. I'm beyond angry. I told him that I was done with his parents. I'll pay half of the bills, buy groceries, and that's it. If he wants to give all his disability payments to his parents, fine, but I'm not going to work 60 hours a week just for him to give our money away. So, Ada for going to the bank, withdrawing all the money I had saved, and opening a new account that he has no access to. He says I'm being an asshole and that I should want his parents to be happy. I'd love to see them happy, but I'm not willing to fund it with my own well-being. Ada for refusing to help get my stepdaughters to their newest extracurricular activity. My husband has 2 daughters, 13 and 12, with his ex-wife. They have been divorced for almost 11 years and we have been married for 7 years and share 2 kids together ages 6 and 3. His ex-wife is not currently remarried, but she did marry twice since the divorce and has 2 additional children ages 9 and 5. The co-parenting relationship is very unstable and changeable. Some decisions need to be made via mediation. Others they can agree on to a point. While a few were taken to court for a judge to decide it for them. My relationship with my stepdaughters was good until 3 years ago when their mom's negativity changed how they treat me. They have expressed that they know their mom doesn't like me, so they won't like me anymore either. This has been discussed in court and in therapy and nothing has changed. They continue to treat me differently than before. They don't get away with disrespect, but they still are way more than before and they're colder with me in general. Now on to the issue where I want to know if I'm Ta. My husband and I are typically really good about communicating, and he is a supportive husband and father and has done a good job of keeping me out of his ex-wife's way so she can't say crap to me and also standing up for me. I don't join them for talks about the girls. That's him and his ex, but my husband and I will discuss it. A few months ago the girls said they wanted to take new dance classes 50 minutes from our home. They already do ballet, dancing for fun, which is free, and gymnastics. But these dance classes are different. They're also more expensive than the other extracurriculars they do. I told my husband I thought the new dance classes were too far and too expensive, and I said they would not work with the schedule we already have. But when he and his ex sat down to discuss it, he agreed to these new dance classes, which he and his ex will split 50-50. When he told me, I wasn't thrilled, because he didn't tell me he was going to agree to them. But I know it's not my decision. But I told him I could not and would not help get the girls there. He told me we'd figure something out. The girls were back with us 2 days after this talk, and they said their mom told them I didn't want them to do these dance classes and sucks to be me because I don't have a say because I'm not their parent. My husband told them not to speak to me like that. He was unable to get his parents to take the girls to the new classes, so he wanted me to do it. I put my foot down and said no. He said he can't because he has to work. I told him I have to drop our 6-year-old off at his extracurricular that day and it would not work with time. My husband asked his ex if she'd bring them every week, and she's saying I'm such an asshole for not driving them, and how dare I think I get any say in this. That I need to do what the kids want and stay out of their way otherwise. Aida. Story 16. The girl I loved just got married to the guy she cheated on me with. I loved her more than anything. I remember I was saving photos of our best and happiest moments and conversations to make an album I would give to her as a surprise on the day we would marry each other. I tried everything in my power to make her smile, and I strived to always help her with any problem she ever had. I sacrificed everything I could sacrifice for her. Heck, I even managed to teach a robot to remind me about all of her favorite things, including how to cook her favorite recipes so that I could cook them for her. When I proposed to her, she said yes, and we spent months planning our wedding together. And then, to make a very long story short, I went through economic difficulties due to the pandemic, telling her it would take me a couple of months to get back on my feet. During those months she cheated on me, made fun of, insulted me and blocked me. It's been 3 years since then. I just found out she married the guy she cheated on me with. Funny thing is that I'm doing better than him right now, and I can't help but wonder, why wasn't I enough for her? There is literally nothing he could offer her that I couldn't offer her, and he will never love her and care about her the way I loved her. I don't even know how I feel. I just keep thinking about how things could have been different and asking myself why it all went this way. I realize that pondering on the past isn't healthy, and I plan to move on. I've achieved a lot and plan on achieving more since her betrayal. But without her by my side, it all just feels so pointless, in spite of how stupid this may sound. I loved her, and I will always love the memories of her, even though I now realize most of them were probably lies. And perhaps that's what hurts the most. Not knowing where the lies end and the truth begins. And I don't know what would be worse, if it was all a lie, or if there was true love that simply died. The only reason I keep going forward is that I simply don't see any other way, and work distracts me from the pain, but honestly I wish I had never been born. Has any of you lived through something like this? If so, do you have any tips on what to do? Story 17. Update. Aida for breaking up with my fiancé for telling her best friend she was not engaged. Hey guys, I just got home after talking to my still ex-fiancé, and since a lot of people asked for an update, here it is. But I want to clarify a few things. As commented on my original post, I pay for the house since I bought it before dating her, and I asked her to move in, since it was close to her job. I work from home since I'm in tech, but she had to go to work, that's why I paid for her car, to help her commute, and honestly her salary is shit. I was her partner, so I didn't see any problem with that. I thought she was the one, despite everything. She is smart, funny, we had chemistry, but I felt betrayed. To the update. We met at a coffee shop on the premise we would discuss how to save our relationship, at least, that's what she thought. As soon as we sat down, I asked to see their messages. She got defensive immediately and told me she had deleted everything. I asked to see her phone anyway. She started to cry, ugly cry, asking me to stop. At that point I had already decided I was not going to be part of the relationship anymore, but damn, I was curious. It took a good 20 minutes for her to hand me her phone, a lot of crying, even a waitress asking her if she was okay. So I read the messages. There wasn't any cheating like nudes being exchanged, them professing their love for each other, but what I read still stung. There was a lot of shit talking about me. A lot. Texts and texts of them saying how terrible of a person I was, criticizing my hobbies, I like video games and pro wrestling, saying I wasn't a real man because of them and stuff like that. But there were two topics that caught my eye. One where she had told him I was having trouble getting hard and that was frustrating for her. And one where she was complaining about how she didn't want to be stuck in our relationship. Yes, I was having problems in bed, because I was sad because my father had passed away 6 months ago, and the stuck thing, I remember telling her that when we got married, if she wanted, she could leave her job, and I would provide for both of us. I don't know if she took this the wrong way, but I guess it was related to that. I honestly don't know. By the time I gave her the phone back, she was already giving excuses on why she was saying those things to him, how he was like a therapist for her, and then she asked me, "Don't you complain about me to your friends?" And I simply replied, "No, I don't." She started crying again. I took a pretty deep breath and just said, "Just give me the ring back. I didn't have the ring with me, like some suggested." She hesitated a bit, but gave it to me anyway. I stood up and asked her to delete my number and to not bother me anymore. I called her mom and asked her to pick up her daughter's stuff at my place. Her mom is a good person. I'm just realizing I'm going to miss her as I write this. She understood why I decided to end it, but she didn't ask much, and to be honest, I'm glad she didn't. As for my mom, I didn't call her, I just blocked her for things unrelated to this post. I just realized she never had my back in anything. I was always trying to save an already failed mom-son relationship. Before I leave, I just want to clarify. I was never against her having male friends, or any type of friends. People are going to cheat, friends are no friends. I remember my dad saying something to me when I was a teenager. He always said, "Opportunity makes the thief," but I do not agree with that. Anyway, since I have the next 2 weeks off work, I'm going to figure what to do with the wedding money, drink some booze, play games and watch Monday Night Raw later. Peace. Edit. A couple of people are asking about the car. Is a 2015 Nissan Versa which she crashed 2 times, both times she rear-ended someone. Never liked the car, weak engine, the interior feels cheap and overall bad, so for all I care she can keep that piece of shit. I would have more luck throwing it off a cliff than selling it. Edit 2. Little update. Her mom called me a few hours ago to check on me and to ask when she could come and pick up X's stuff. We spoke about the car and she basically forbid me to let her daughter keep the car because, 1, I paid for it. 2, X wouldn't be able to maintain it. So I'm going to keep the car until I'm able to sell it, God help me. Also, some people called the story fake, cause they said I wasn't a real man for playing games, and yet they played WoW. To be honest, that's on me, cause I wasn't very clear. The real man thing was more about the pro wrestling hobby than the gaming hobby, but in some messages they clearly mocked me for playing some games. Life is Strange series. In one I remember James saying something like, "How could a grown-ass man play such a girly game and cry?" Yes, I cried playing Life is Strange. I also cried to RDR2. The I'm Afraid cutscene still makes me emotional. I'm a crybaby, I guess. Also, I want to thank everyone who messaged me to talk about wrestling and games. It really helped me take my mind out of everything. I haven't replied to everyone, but I intend to. If anything happens, I'll let you guys know. Be good people. Story 18. I cheated on my BPD spouse following 2 weeks of intense manic episodes. Hi everyone. I'm in a really tough spot right now and could use some advice. A few days ago, I made a terrible mistake and cheated on my wife. I've always tried to be a good husband, and this has left me feeling completely broken and ashamed. For the past 2 weeks, she's been in a mental state where she was telling me she wanted a divorce, that everything we did meant nothing, and how she wanted to sleep with other people. She tore me down so badly during that time that I caved and cheated, thinking I had already lost her. It weighed so much on me and I felt disgusted with myself, I couldn't keep it a lie. My wife had cheated on me with her boss before we were married. I found out by some man anonymously sending hundreds of pictures of her sexting with her boss. Right after we were married. It destroyed me, but I forgave her because I love her and couldn't bear to have her find out like that. After I told her what happened, she went through a phase where she seemed emotionally distant and hurt, which made me feel like I had lost her for good. I wrote her a heartfelt letter before I had cheated, expressing my love and commitment, but she called me weak for caring and trying to hold on to her. Now, she's not wanting to talk to me at all, and it feels like I'm stuck in this limbo of regret and longing to make things right. I genuinely want to work through this and repair our relationship, but I'm not sure how to approach it since she seems to need space. All of this has taken place in the last few weeks. Our relationship has been good besides her and I stumbling. She has manic episodes where she sometimes acts like this, but this time it's been completely different. It destroyed me. I'm also struggling with feelings of isolation. I don't have the means for therapy right now and feel like the only person I can talk to is this community. If anyone has been through something similar or has any advice on how to navigate this situation, I would really appreciate your input. Thank you. Story 19. I ate up for having my cousin eat the same amount of food as I in a day. My cousin Abby, F27, and I used to weigh the same, 300 plus lbs, 135 plus kgs. Until a few years back when I had a health scare and lost weight and followed a stricter diet. I'm now around 200 pounds, 100 kgs and have felt better. I don't eat as much anymore. Abby wasn't happy about that as now she's the fattest person, her words, in the room and family. I am bigger than her and so I used to hold that title before. No one else was making comments about her weight but her. During the party she noticed I didn't eat a lot and said I was holding back to make her look bad. I didn't say anything to that, which apparently got her angry. So this morning she told me she'd match what I'd eat the entire day to show how easy it was. I don't know where that came from but I didn't stop her. The entire day. Breakfast water, orange juice, and some dinner rolls. Lunch chicken, rice, veggies, water. Dinner 2 egg sandwiches, water. We also had snacks throughout the day but the amount I ate was small and I drank a lot of water. By nighttime Abby had no strength and clearly still hungry. She also drank way more water than she was normally used to, she used to bathroom a lot more. She broke down saying she believes I did it on purpose. Her mom helped her get to bed and told me afterwards I made her feel worse about her weight. I whooped back. No one made a comment about her weight and my weight loss was spurred by me spending months in a hospital for a bad infection. I didn't know. Her mom tells me I'm the a-hole and my Toa relatives won't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Story 20. AITAH for not being more sympathetic when my brother's wife cheated on him. I, F28, have a best friend called David. Our parents are neighbors and we literally grew up together. He is like my brother. My real brother, 31, is Avi. He is an asshole. My parents love him. He can do no wrong. He stole from me constantly. I made money babysitting to buy my own stuff and he would steal it or the stuff like my iPod and my parents would not punish him. In short, Avi is a shit person. David started dating Shoshana in high school. It was his first real girlfriend. I was a little jealous of all the time he spent with her but I was happy for him. She is beautiful and smart. At least outwardly. David and I both got accepted to Northwestern but she went to Iowa State to stay close to her parents. She cheated on David with Avi while we were freshmen. Because Avi is a prick and she is a whore. I never forgave them. David was crushed. He worked through it. Avi ended up getting her pregnant and married her. She dropped out to be a mom. Like I said, outwardly smart. Avi works for my dad so he makes good money and can afford it. He just found out that she has been cheating on him. He was at my parents' house when I went there for a visit. When my mom told me why, I asked her what he really expected from her. She cheated to be with him. My mom said I was being an asshole for holding a grudge for 10 years. I said I don't have a grudge and that it was an honest question. He knew for a fact that she cheated on a relationship. Why did he think she would change? My mom said to drop it and not bring up his past to Avi. I didn't. I gave him fake sympathy and asked if he needed anything. He said he was fine. I did tell David and his wife about it though. He snorted. Should I have been more sympathetic? Ada. Story 21. My F24 boyfriend M25 claims he didn't mean it after drunkenly admitting he was in love with his friend F29. What now? We have been dating for 6 months. She, Haley, is friends with my boyfriend Jared but they are not very close. She has come up in our conversations a couple of times but nothing too serious. She broke up with her boyfriend about 3 months ago and I have noticed he has gotten distant but I didn't think too much into it because he's a part-time model and sometimes he travels and gets quiet. He is a great guy, very kind and very generous, and even when he's being distant, he's nice and sweet when we talk. Haley is gorgeous, and I would lie if I said I was not intimidated by her, but I am, and I feel bad because she's genuinely a nice person. Friday night, Jared had his friends over at his house, got very drunk, and called me. I was glad that he thought about me in that moment, and we had a long conversation with him rumbling on and me laughing. It was light and funny until I asked him how he met Haley, so he asked me, "Do you also think she's adorable?" I don't know why I asked this, but I asked him if she was his type. His response was, "I love petite girls. Petite girls are so cute. She is 5 feet 2, feminine and skinny. I am 5 feet 9 and a bit on the bigger side." My heart sunk after this. I asked him why he was with me and not Haley. He said she was in a relationship and he couldn't bring himself to ask her out. He regrets seeing me because now she's single and he can't ask her out because of me. I didn't want to hear more, so I told him I was going to bed. I have been crying since then. Yesterday, I asked him about everything he told me and he claims he didn't mean it, he was drunk. He reassured me today, but I still feel hurt and I don't know what to believe. What would you do? Edit. I would like to thank everyone. I may be unable to respond to everyone, but I have read everything, and everyone has said everything I knew but had a hard time admitting to myself. I was going to follow the advice to break up with him before he does that to me, but unfortunately, he has just broken up with me. He called me asking to meet up and I immediately knew. I told him I didn't want to meet up with him and he can say whatever he wanted on the phone, so I let him talk. His exact words were, "I have thought hard about it, and I know I have been unfair to you. I am really sorry. I really do have feelings for Haley, and lying to you made me feel like shit because you don't deserve it. I respected her relationship because I don't condone cheating, and I tried to move on, I really did. When you asked me out, I thought there was no harm in getting to know someone new. I stupidly thought I could move on, but I was wrong. I do find you attractive, and I was drawn to your creativity and humor. I thought I was moving on and fully planned on focusing on us, but I heard about her breakup, and I was back to square one. I know keeping you around is selfish. Hearing what I said while drunk must have hurt you. I really didn't want to say those words to you because I know it must have been hard to hear them. I shouldn't have started something with you before dealing with my feelings. Please find it in your heart to forgive me. I couldn't say or ask anything. All I could say was, "Oh, okay." He asked me if I wanted to say anything to him. I said I didn't, and I was going to ask a friend to pick up my stuff from his place. He said, "Sure, just let me know. I feel numb right now. It hurts a lot, but I will be fine. Thank you, everyone, for your support. I will update if anything significant comes up." Final update. Ada for telling my sister I don't know if I love her after finding out about her 5-year affair. My sister just won't stop talking about him. Every day, it's the same story. Their perfect future, together, the apartment they're moving into, how everything will be great once his divorce is done. She's completely lost in this delusion, acting like none of the lies and betrayal matter. I can't stand it. She made him write me letters. Yes, actual letters. As if that's going to magically make me approve of him. She leaves them around the house, thinking that if I just read them, I'll suddenly understand how sorry he is and how much he loves her. I haven't responded to a single one. It's ridiculous. I told her over and over that I don't want anything to do with him, but she keeps pushing, as if she can wear me down. It's beyond frustrating. Then came the talk of moving in together. She sat me down and asked for my blessing, telling me how important it was to her that I support their relationship. She actually wanted me to meet him, to give him a chance. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's when I drew the line. I told her flat out, if she moves in with him, I'm done. I told her I would go low contact, that I wouldn't be part of their life, and that she's on her own if she goes through with this. If she wanted my support, she had to leave him, full stop. For a moment, I thought she was finally getting it. She showed me screenshots from his ex-wife. The ex had pretended she wanted him back, and this guy fell for it immediately. He told her how much he missed her, how my sister was a mistake, how he wanted to fix things with his family. My sister was crushed. She came to me with the screenshots, crying, and I thought, for a couple of days, that maybe, just maybe, she would finally see him for who he really is. I was hopeful. But then, as usual, he wormed his way back in. He told her he only said those things because he was afraid his ex would take the kids away, and of course, she bought it. Now she's actively moving in with him, packing up her things and making all these plans like nothing happened. The screenshots. Forgotten. The lies. Excused. She's determined to be with him no matter what, and I am done. I told her I'm not helping her anymore. No more driving her to appointments. No more checking on her. Nothing. I'm not going to pretend everything's okay while she's diving headfirst into this disaster. Now, I barely talk to her. If she asks where the tea is, I'll tell her. If she wants to know if there's milk left, I'll answer. But that's it. I'm emotionally cut off, and I told her straight. I'll be here if things fall apart, if she's in danger, but I am not going to be a part of this train wreck. She's on her own now. The community backlash hasn't slowed down either. Everywhere we go, people are whispering, staring, and judging. They're not just looking at her, they're looking at me too. People know she's living with me, and I've started hearing comments at work about why I haven't completely cut her off. It's affecting my life now, and I just can't carry her mistakes anymore. Her friends, all gone. The ones who were married have cut ties completely. She's isolated herself, but instead of waking up, she's clinging harder to him, holding on to this fantasy that everything will work out. But I'm done caring. She's made her choice, and now she has to live with the fallout. This is the final update because I'm finished. I'm done trying, done caring, done dealing with the mess she's made. She can have her life with him, but I'm not going to be part of it. Story 23. Aida for making my sister pay me back for throwing out my daughter's bra. Right now, we're hosting my sister and her family because their home was damaged by Hurricane Helena. There are some rules in place. Be respectful of our living space. Her sons are not allowed in my daughter Thea's room, and as soon as the repairs are done, they are out of here. Her sons broke one of the rules when they went in Thea's room and went through her things. They found one of Thea's special compression bras. Thea has been doing theater ever since she was little. The compression bra looks like a tank top and she uses it if she is playing a boy or a young girl and has to flatten her chest to better look the part. Their mom found it and threw it away. We didn't realize this until Thea was packing her theater bag for play practice and realized it was missing. This is not great because she's starring as Viola in her school's production of Twelfth Night. Thea buys most of her theater stuff like makeup and costumes, and the bra was pretty expensive, $50. I told my sister she needed to pay us back so we can replace it. My sister refuses because she says she isn't doing well financially, and how dare I demand a homeless woman pay for her boys being boys. Not to mention, she doesn't think it's appropriate for her to have something like that. Our mom, who has always been soft on Judy, thinks we're being too harsh since she's a single mom who doesn't have a home right now. I just want my daughter's stuff replaced. Is that too much to ask? Aida. Edit. To answer some frequently asked questions. Why won't my mom take them in? She lives in a retirement community that doesn't allow anyone under the age of 65. I'm not sure if temporary stays are okay, but if she let them live with her, then she runs the risk of getting evicted. I don't know how much damage was done to the bra itself. Thea's room was pretty trashed. We're talking clothes left on the floor, spilled perfume, and messing with a display shelf full of some of her old Disney dolls. All I know is that Judy saw the boys messing with the bra, thought it was another kind of breast binder, and threw it away. We got locks installed for Thea's room, along with our son and my husband's man cave, after we found out the boys messed with his Battlestar Galactica and Firefly figurines. Why did I let them in? I've hosted other family and friends during previous hurricanes and never ran into this problem. Maybe someone's kids got into Thea's costumes, but no harm, no foul. I've always been raised to help others, especially family, in their time of need, but this has me wanting to set up boundaries now. Judy and her kids are going to have to find a new place to stay. I'm just waiting for my hubby to come home from work. We may need one of his friends for backup just in case. The compression bra is something she bought online through a website that sells clothing for performers, like actors and dancers. We're talking tights, pasties, leotards, etc. Thea is a big fan of Sydney Sweeney, and she showed me a video where Sweeney had to wear a similar bra for a TV show she was in. Story 24. AITAH for not giving up my seat at the bar after a large group of people suggested I should. I will sometimes go to this popular bar on Saturday to have a few beers and watch the games. I'm there for maybe 2 hours. I got there at a good time and got a decent seat. As I am there, I start to notice the bar getting more packed. There aren't any seats left. There was this large group sitting near me. I had 3 people on my left and 2 on my right and people crowding around them, all the same group of people. Mind you, I'm not really socializing, just watching the game. I'm actually quite introverted, so this was an awkward situation for me, lol. As I order another beer, I start to hear things in the background like, "He needs to go, I know they're talking about me." About 5 minutes later, this very pretty girl comes up to me and asks how long I have left, because she wanted to sit down. I told her politely that I wanted to catch the end of the game and then it's all hers. The game had maybe 15 minutes left. So I'm drinking my beer, minding my business, and this guy to my left from the group says, "Hey buddy, you're gonna have to move, we need that chair." He didn't say please, didn't even ask, just told me I needed to leave. I was so pissed. I told him I'd finish up my beer and leave, it was 3/4 gone. The same guy puts his hand on me and says, "I'm not trying to be a dick, but you need to go." I politely tell him to get his fucking hand off of me. I finished my beer, waited on the check for another 5 minutes and left. An introvert's worst nightmare, haha. I feel like if I would have longed just to be petty, but then I'd have to fight my way out. That's how tense it was. Isn't this ridiculous? Story 25. My daughter left me to stay with her mom and ignored me. I ate her for not talking to her after she came back to me pregnant. I raised my 24-year-old daughter on my own. I had my daughter when I was very young. I was 19. Her mom broke up with me and said she doesn't want to be responsible for a child, and I had her full custody. My ex gave up her rights to her daughter and left who knows where. It was really hard for me to raise her and take care of her. Thankfully my sister and my mom helped me taking care of her when I was working, but still it was hard for me taking care of my daughter, working and doing chores and other stuff all on my own. For her I even sacrificed dating or marriage. I didn't want my daughter to have a stepmom or anything like that. My daughter's and her mom's relation started flourishing 2 years ago. Her mom visited me and said she wanted to talk to her daughter. I didn't want to allow her, but I thought my daughter needs to know about her mom. They have gotten closer and hang out a lot. I didn't have a problem with that, but 10 months ago my daughter said she wants to go live with her mom. I refused. I told her it's better she just stays with me and visit her mom every day if she wants, but my daughter didn't listen to me. She said she's an adult and can do whatever she wants. I tried explaining and told her repeatedly that my ex is not a good person, but my daughter didn't listen to me. After she left, I wasn't in contact with my daughter for all these months. I tried, but she would deny meeting me and always tell me she's busy or other excuses, and we only talked to each other on the phone. But 5 days ago my daughter visited me and she was crying. I was angry at her for ignoring me for all this time, but I took her in. She hugged me right away and after a while she told me the truth. She told me that she's pregnant and her mom kicked her out after she ran out of money I gave her. I was so shocked because I didn't even know my daughter had a boyfriend, but now my daughter is pregnant. I love my daughter very much. Even if she has betrayed me, I couldn't just deny her entry to my house. I let her in. She is staying with me once again, but I do not talk to her. She told me she found out that she's pregnant a month ago, and after she told her mom, she was kicked out after a lot of taunting for days, and her ex-BF doesn't want to take care of her child, so she needs my legal help. I told her I will help her with everything, but do not talk to me. I said I did everything for you, sacrificed everything for you, but you didn't even come back to your home or meet your father even once. I haven't been talking to my daughter ever since she came back. She on the other hand is depressed and suddenly turned back into a 9-year-old. She would randomly hug me and come to my side to sleep, and while sleeping she hugs me and cry, and I feel like she wants her father's comfort, so I hug her back and let her sleep. My daughter begs me to talk to her and says that she needs her father, but I think I should punish my daughter for just abandoning me. That's why I'm giving her silent treatment, though I will help her with everything else. Am I wrong for being upset with my daughter? Story 26. Don't park in the company garage with your personal car. Another Dutch Navy story, this time from the time after I returned from Curaçao and when I got stationed on the naval base in Den Helder in the Netherlands. When I was stationed as a driver in Den Helder, we had a big garage with all our company vehicles parked in there. There were trucks, touring cars, small buses, luxury cars, pretty ordinary cars, but they were called Lux Autos, and a few forklifts. Those vehicles were driven by ourselves obviously, but the luxury cars would also be assigned to Navy personnel for business trips to other locations. They would pick up the vehicle with the appropriate paperwork, allowing them to legally drive the company vehicle. This particular petty revenge was a joint effort between my chief, a few coworkers, and myself. This one particular sergeant major would pick up a car and leave his private car inside the garage, which was very much prohibited insurance and Navy regulations, and he would always return after working hours. My chief would tell him to cease parking his own vehicle in the garage and to start parking it in the assigned parking lot outside of the garage. The sergeant major would say, "Yes, but do." "No," thinking him outtranking our chief, a sergeant, would protect him from repercussions. So after a few times my chief was fed up with this behavior, but wanted retaliation outside of the official ways, so he came up with a plan. This was actually to protect him from military disciplinary law, so to make sure the sergeant major didn't actually get in trouble. The next time the sergeant major parked his car in the garage, he appointed me and a coworker to take a forklift and to put a pallet with concrete blocks behind his car, as close as possible without scratching it. There was really no way he could exit the garage now. I happened to be driver of the watch that specific afternoon, and my chief was very clear to me, "Do not remove the pallet." "Yes, Sergeant, understood." So when he returned to us with the company car, he parked it and walked to the office. He gave me the paperwork and the car keys, and it was obvious he didn't notice that his own car was boxed in. So he walked away and returned moments later to ask about the pallet with the concrete blocks. I told him I could not pick them up because I wasn't allowed to drive the forklift. So he ordered me, a sailor first class, to remove the pallet. I declined, telling him he outranks me, but in my current function I happen to outrank him. Then he asked me for the keys of the company car back, so he could drive home at least. Again, I declined and told him he would be in legal offense, because him taking the car without the proper paperwork stating he could take the car to his home address would be considered military joyriding. Then he went outside and made a few phone calls, until he got picked up by a family member. To be clear, our transportation office was outside the military base. We had to cross 2 bridges to get onto the base itself. So, while it is part of the base, there is no actual security at our gate, and officially you are not on the base itself when you enter our office. The next day I made sure my chief was informed of all that happened, and after a few chuckles, the wait for the sergeant major began. When he finally entered the building he was pretty much passed off and began to berate my chief. My chief, however, had informed his chief, a captain a few desks further. So when the captain told the sergeant major to stop whining and to consider himself lucky that there was no official reprimand, but only a very clear warning, he backed off and apologized for parking the car inside the garage. Next was the moment that my chief called me over and told me to take the forklift and to take the pallet away. In silence we walked to his car. I took the forklift and released the poor car from his captivity. The sergeant major dutifully parked his private car in the assigned parking place ever since. Story 27. Update. Aida for telling my father that it was his fault he missed my son's first birthday party. Hey guys. I intended to update sooner, but I've been busy these days. I think my main takeaway from your comments was that it's not my job to placate my father's feelings. He made several conscious decisions that led him to miss the birthday party. He had the right to make those choices, but the consequences were, indeed, his fault. After deliberating for a while, I called my father to discuss the subject again. I told him I don't expect him to apologize, and I won't hold resentment towards him forever, but he can't expect me to pretend his actions didn't anger me, or that it wasn't his fault. We had a long discussion about it. Throughout all of it, my father kept trying to play the victim. He'd talk about how he wanted to come to the party, and was upset he'd missed it. At one point he said, "You don't understand, I didn't want to go to the church." I told him I don't care, what matters is that he did. He could have told his girlfriend he didn't want to go, but he didn't. He could have left the church early, but he didn't. He could have prioritized his previous commitment and not attended the event in the first place, but he didn't. Everything he did that day was within his control. I won't get into the specifics of the discussion itself, but I will say that it took a while. I explained that if he wants to prioritize his girlfriend over his grandchild, the least he can do is be upfront about it. That means either not making promises he can't keep or acknowledging his responsibility when he makes regretful decisions. My father did end up apologizing and, more importantly, taking accountability. I forgave him, but I intend to be wary from now on. Looking back, I don't feel like I was ever able to truly rely on my father. Back then, he would miss events because he had a complicated work schedule. But now that I know he's also capable of doing that willingly, I don't want to enable it. If my father ever prioritizes anything, be it a girlfriend or an event, over a commitment he made to my son again, I will stop inviting him. Same goes for any children my husband and I have in the future. I've informed my father of that, and he agreed. His girlfriend, from what I've heard, is pissed at me, but I could care less. This will be my only update. I don't think I have anything else to add, but feel free to ask me any questions you may have. Thank you for your feedback on my last post.